and Facebook. I am Imo Edet here in Dakar, and I do have my colleague Usman Umar in Abuja co-anchoring the program.
Indeed, Imo, we thank everyone for staying with us on this edition of Citizens Hour, where we bring you conversations that center on accountability, justice, and most important of all, the voices of the ordinary people. On today's program, our discussion takes us from the historical reflections of a nation to the digital challenges of the modern era. Of course, Imo, I want to be the first to let the cat out of the bag. That, of course, the acclaimed most stable democracy in West Africa is 66 years old today. Imo.
Our second discussion examines the impact of the digital age on our regional stability. And we are asking, is digital propaganda undermining regional unity across West Africa?
You want to stay with us for this very, very special edition, because there is a third segment of the program today where we will be introducing a new voice and a new face, if you like, and also a new project to the Citizens Hour family. Do stay with us for details of all of these and more.
Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.
Indeed, we welcome all of our listeners following us on YouTube and Facebook. You can be part of the conversation by dropping a message in the comment section. Well, it's time to bring on board our guests here in the studio. Usman, I will allow you to bring in our guests, even if you are there in Abuja.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor, actually. Thank you very much, Imo. Of course, joining us for our first topic today, Dr. Ibrahima Sane. He is a former member of the Senegalese parliament, and I've just been informed that he's actually a veteran colleague in the pen-pushing business. And also, Professor Saliu Dione is the director of Post-Colonial Studies Laboratory at Sheikh Anta Diop University. Welcome to the program, gentlemen, from here in Abuja.
Thank you very much, Umar.
Well, thank you
very much.
Well, Dr. Sane, I'd like to start with you. I mean, as Senegal celebrates 66 years, how much of the original post-colonial vision remains intact in today's governance?
Tough to say because of the way the country got its independence. Some countries had to wage a bloody war before they got independence. This one didn't have to. They were bestowed. They were given independence. And remember that year there were about 17 countries so it's not that exceptional event. It's not the same day, but the same year, so many countries had independence, including Nigeria, I believe, in fact, and Congo, and mostly in West Africa. Yeah, so what is left of that, we can discuss that later, but it's difficult to say, really.
Well, Prof, before I allow Usman to throw his first question, I mean, he mentioned in his introduction that Senegal is described as the beacon of democracy. And we would like to know what key factors have really sustained that reputation from 1960 till now.
So I think that, thank you first for the wonderful invitation. I also thank Dr. Ibrahima Sane. It's a pleasure to share this moment with you. I think that there are some elements that can be appreciated, but we still have a long way to go. Even though we know that, Senegal has been doing election for many years. I can say among the first colonized French-speaking, formerly colonized French-speaking countries. So, and then if we see the history of Senegal, different form of transition, political transition that exists, we are known to be a democratic country. We are known to be a country that always assure a peaceful transition of power. But if you look at all the different political trajectory that have happened since independence, we can just say that we are a democratic country, but we also need to make it more perfect. Okay, we still have a lot of things to really improve.
Indeed. Usman.
Well, the question I want to ask is still to Doctor, because it's very, very important that we understand why Senegal today in West Africa, because if you look at Senegal, most of the multinationals and even big corporations wants to have their headquarters in Dakar. because of some level of stability, in Senegal. But first of all, how significant was the peaceful transfer of power in 2000 and 2012? Because this is very important. That moment actually is believed to have shaped Senegal's democratic image.
Well, first of all, Usman, thank you. And I'd like to greet Dr. John as well. He was more graceful than me when he first took the floor. Now, for geographical reasons first, the gateway of some parts of Africa is Dakar. So a lot of multinationals and other instances would want to have their headquarters here. So that's... Secondly, for historical reasons, this part of West Africa was the capital of French-speaking Africa during colonization times. So it's a tradition, and even the Côte d'Ivoire used to be called Ivory Coast, and the capital was here. So for that, and thirdly, I am not saying it's an exhaustive listing of the reasons, but you can explain the circumstances under which we had a president who was well known. He was just not a president. He was a famous poet and cultural person. He was a leader of the cultural world. So you can understand that why there was some attraction. The country was attractive and could still did retain. But I think it's very flattering to hear that it is the most acclaimed, as Usman has said, democracy in Africa.
Well, Prof, let me come to you, taking over from Usman. We are surrounded by countries that have experienced coup multiple times. And in it, you have Senegal. What is that thing that has been able to hold the country that stable, that despite having neighbors who are run by the military government, we still have democracy in this country?
Yeah, I think that there are different reasons that are really historical. I remember one of my colleagues from Pretoria talk about Senegalese exceptionality in regarding what is really happening in West Africa. I think that there are historical reasons for that, because the first president of Senegal, Léopold Sédar Senghor, one of his first missions was just to see to it that Senegal has a nation state that is based on cultural unity, on ethnic understanding, and also on what we call religious understanding. Because in Senegal we don't have issue of ethnicity compared to what really exists in other country. When we have Christian and Muslim, they're together. They have been together for so long. So this is also one reason. The other reason is also people do not really focus on cultural differences. Okay, cultural differences are not really one aspect that determine belonging or differentiation. So Senghor then focused on building a nation state that was based on unity. The other aspect which is also very important is the role of religious leaders that we have in Senegal. I'm not saying that other countries do not have religious leaders, but the religious leaders that we have in Senegal, whether you have Christian religious leaders or whether you have traditional religious leaders or whether you have Muslim religious leaders, they are involved in playing a paramount role in stabilizing the country. And they are good example of it. Whenever people are afraid that Senegal is going to,
collapse.
Whenever they say, okay, now you have to cool down, everybody really accept. The other important way, which is related to economic reason, is also because Senegal is the gateway to Africa. Okay, when you have your business in Senegal, or when you have your headquarters in Senegal, it's easier for you to travel to other part of West Africa.
Okay, Imo, let me go over to Dr. Sani. because it's important that Dr. Dion has mentioned some of the institutions. Of course, the religious institutions, they play a very key role in stabilizing any society. But the question I want to ask Dr. Sane is, of course, it has to do with the judiciary and the electoral bodies, because these are key pillars that actually help to safeguard any democracy. What has been the experience, especially in Senegal, with respect to how judiciary and the electoral bodies have helped in safeguarding democracy?
Yeah, well, you see, the first president, and I think Dr. John mentioned it, insisted on culture. And it's a lot deeper than the traditional understanding of culture. It determines everything. Whenever Senghor would travel, other presidents would normally take corporate people, corporate owners and leaders. He would take artists and things like that, because it says, he used to say, this is fundamental. Okay. Secondly, Senegal benefited from being the gateway, the country first leading the other colonies of the continent, of West Africa, French-speaking West Africa, and we have, and universities were here, training facilities were here, so people have been very well trained. The judiciary has excellent tradition of training in Senegal, and indeed we exported a lot of our people, skilled people to other African countries. So it's you can understand that there has never been a coup here, and you can even, I'm not boasting about it, but
it's enough to boast.
But what I mean is, you still haven't had those jihadists or whatever other types of movements of that sort in Senegal yet. We cross our fingers; it can happen, but it hasn't happened yet. This is what I'm saying. So it's we're anchored in a certain tradition, and I think it'll be difficult to reverse that tradition.
Indeed. Well, Professor Judd, Usman talked about the electoral bodies, judiciary, and how they have helped safeguard the democracy of this country. Would you say with that we're seeing a strengthening democracy or a shrinking democracy, looking at the present state of governance?
Okay, I will go beyond that, because I don't want us to really look at democracy from a Western perspective of democracy. You cannot. Senegal has its own real democracy.
Okay.
And this democracy cannot be just looked at from the perspective of the electoral body and from the perspective of the judiciary. No, I think that there are other pillars that should be included in it.
Okay.
Dotu, they're here to perform the Western model for democracy. But if you take Senegal, you cannot just limit it to those two pillars. Okay. The religious pillar and the cultural pillars are also part of Senegalese democracy. That's why I always said that actually we should really assess democracy. Whenever we talk about democracy, we always refer to election, electoral body, judiciary, but we don't talk about the other element of democracy, which are also very important. Without what I call Senegalese exceptionality, based on the contribution of religious leaders, the historical reality that exists. If you put away those elements, you're not going to understand Senegalese democracy. So you cannot limit it to the judiciary and then to the electoral body. Though I know that the judiciary and the electoral body, they are very important pillar to Senegalese democracy, but they are not enough to really talk about this exceptionality that Senegal has, and that has prevented Senegal from experiencing.
But would you say there's a maturity of some sort, or we're seeing a strain?
Yeah,
with all of these pillars that you have mentioned.
You cannot silence those pillars whenever you want to talk about democracy. You cannot limit it to the judiciary and the electoral body. They play a very important role, but there are also roles that other pillars play before even the judiciary can or the electoral body can really play their part.
Well,
and what he says is important, because I know countries like Nigeria and Cameroon and especially the Anglophone part of Cameroon, where the role of traditional leaders is very important. In Senegal, you have this blending of tradition and modern democracy. I think this is what the country has managed to achieve, and no conflict between the two. And they coexist, and in fact, they reinforce each other. And in that way, I think Dr. John is very right.
Usman.
Well, I want to follow up again with Dr. Sani, because being a veteran in my field, that is journalism, I know that media, of course, play a very significant role in making or marring any society. And just as a follow-up question to the role of other institutions, what has been the media space? Well, I mean, what's been the characteristic of the media space in Senegal over the course of time? Because I want to believe that they also, no matter how insignificant, they must have roles that they have played in, of course, shaping what Senegal has become today.
Wow, this is a very big question, Usman, and I was in media both in Britain and here. So, yes, mind you, I would say there are leaders before Senegal in the media field. For instance, Burkina Faso did let community radio stations install well before Senegal. So Mali, even Mali. So we're not exactly the leaders in the field. I don't claim that. I think there are other leaders. But what we did is in the print media, I think we will be leaders. And because the school to train journalists for West Africa was in this country, and most of journalists, still a lot of journalists in those countries were trained in Senegal, because a lot of those in media were really well trained. I think that played a big role in the evolution of the media landscape and the media behavior here. And Usman is right. The media has some role in it, even if only in the agenda-setting capacity of the media, not in telling people what to think, but at least in setting the agenda of the debate on the day. So, yes, I think it has a role.
I would like your view on the role of the same media during the last election and all of the drama that played out before we have this government.
Media are very free during elections here, freer than in a lot of West African countries that I've been. I have been an observer as a member of parliament for the UMOA, YMU in English, West Africa Economic and Monetary Union. And I did observe, I chaired the mission to observe the elections in Cote d'Ivoire to elect Alassane Ouattara. I chaired a number of missions. And I can say that in Togo and in Niger, in Mali, media are really under strict rules in some of those countries. Here, media don't always observe those rules. They just do behave as media, don't give results, don't say this one won here and there. Media are there and would give results whether the government likes it or not. Yes, they and that is very good, and that is important, so that the government cannot change the results because the media have already given it. So this, I think, it's a very good point. This is what I saw in some other African countries, I'm afraid.
Well, Prof, do you have a contribution to make to that?
So I think that Dr. Sani is really the right for that, but I can just add a few words to what he has said. If we really go back to what happened in 2000 with the first transition to power, with the election of President Abdoulaye Wade, we all know that the Senegalese media, they really play a very important role in it. Okay, not in saying who won and who lost, but in just giving the results so as to avoid or to prevent election rigging. But when we look at now the role of the media, we can see that the role of the media has evolved now positively or negatively. We can have our individual appreciation of it, but sometimes what we have is just like a media propaganda, which might be good but also dangerous.
But would you say there've been more trust from the people? Looking at the evolution of democracy, the country from 1960 to date, would you say the people are trusting the institutions more than before, or we are having a decline in terms of citizens' trust?
You mean the media?
No. I mean in the governance itself.
Institutions.
So I can say yes, but not totally.
And why is that so?
Yeah, they trust the institution, even though sometimes you can realize actually they trust the institution whenever the institution see eye to eye with them.
Okay.
But take the example of what happened in the latest election. The president of the Supreme Court was really, blamed, and then Atwood was said about him. And then at the end, I can say that he was one of those who even saved Senegal. And the council, they members of the council, they play a very important role in making the election happen.
And what it is today.
Yeah. Yeah, but the view that the majority of the population had was quite negative.
Then,
Exactly.
Yeah, it was quite negative.
Then, actually,
No.
Dr. John is right here. But institutions that have overseen peaceful change, not once, not twice, but beyond, must be solid institutions and worthy of trust. I mean, after all, we changed from Diouf. The incumbent president was a candidate, but was beaten by an opponent, and that's not easy. That wasn't easy in Africa yet. So there was an institution that oversaw that result from the field, the outcome of votes from the field was respected, and we had change from Abdoulaye Wade to Macky Sall. He was beaten, Wade, and he was the outgoing president, an all-powerful president. So institutions that oversaw that surely must be really solid institutions. Now, the problem is with political activists, political
actors themselves.
And Dr. John said something very important. He said political actors accept the institutions' arbitration when they see eye to eye. I think that's what he said. It's the actors that are rotten and not democratic, really.
Usman.
Mo, let me come in here one more time because I know that you want to go over to current issues. But another very significant institution or component that I'm very sure doctors in the studio will also agree that have also contributed significantly to what we now have as Senegal are the civil society groups. Because I know in West Africa, a lot of reports have indicated that the civil space has been shrinking. Has this been the same for Senegal? What has been the role of civil society in this journey so far?
So who answers first, Usman?
Yes, anybody.
Okay, maybe Prof can go first.
So I think that the civil society is still engaged in the democratic process. Okay, especially when there are elections. Okay, and so I'm not going to say that they act like not institutions. It will be too much to say that, but I think that we also need to reevaluate the role of the civil society, especially in Senegal. They really play a very important role, but at the same time, we also need to evaluate the role they play, because civil society is not only for election.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many civil society in Senegal, they always engage in the field, particularly when elections are
around the corner.
around the corner, and that should not be the case. They should be involved in all the different activities of society, economic activity, political activity, but also social activity. But we are under the impression that the role of civil society is just to be engaged in political affairs. But once again, Senegalese civil society is really a very strong one. They play their part, but at a certain time, we also need to stop and then really evaluate and then see how to make the civil society stronger. Because now we cannot have a real democracy with a full participation of the civil society.
Well,
I beg to disagree a little bit, not really, with Dr. John. My view of civil society in this country is more and more negative, to tell you the truth.
And why is that so?
And because I view a number of reasons. The first one is they're all funded from abroad. All of them are funded from abroad. And if I get my will, elect me president of Senegal, I will change that. No, what I mean is they seem sometimes to have an agenda, being funded from abroad, from a Western point of view. And some of the postures you would see from members of civil society, some of those postures are surprising.
What kind of posture are you talking about
and
here?
Political postures. They are, civil society that's the second reason I was going to give. It's more and more politicized. Dr. John complained that let's not view civil society as being only about politics. But I'm afraid it's their fault if people are looking at them that way, because they are getting more and more involved in politics. And you can have a better speech from a political leader if you listen sometimes to some of the civil society people. And so, I would tend to accept what Usman said, that it could be shrinking, because I'm not sure people are listening to them.
When you say shrinking in terms of government curtailing their activities, or shrinking in terms of their ideals as a civil society organization?
No. Government cannot curtail their presence. I mean, they're getting vocal and very vocal, and that's not shrinking. But in terms of influence, in terms of the role they should be having in the way society functions in the country, I think in that way, yes, I see them as more and more shrinking.
Oh, well, let's talk about strengthening institutions. 66 years for a man who is 66 years would have grown old, strong, and achieved a whole lot. What are those things you think that Senegal needs to strengthen in terms of its democracy, in terms of its governance, looking at the fact that it's almost surrounded by countries that are run by military governments?
Dr. John seems to be. I think you can always improve a system. Definitely. I don't have to know everything you have to improve, but I can tell you one thing that is certainly true. The system in Senegal needs to be perfected in terms of educating citizens in about citizenship. Citizenship is relegated to the background in this country. We're too political.
In what way, Doctor?
I mean, being responsible. I mean, the head of state is probably the person most responsible for running the country. But the rest of the citizens should also feel responsible for the destiny of the country. Do we educate our citizens in that sense? I'm just taking one example. I think there are. I'm just quoting what fields you can improve, but yes, I think broadly speaking, the institutions.
Dr. Garba, please, can you mute your audio, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I was hearing Dr. Garba, you said?
Yes, for the next session.
Okay. So it's, but by and large, the institutions are working. and I repeat, for institutions that are overseen, they are very much criticized by those who are on the wrong side of their decisions. But still, I think they're still solid.
Usman, I would like Prof to respond to this a bit before you comment, please.
All right.
So I was a little bit surprised by the question. Not surprised because I did not expect it, but I have my another view of it, because my perception of democracy is quite different from. I don't really want us to, because the role of democracy should be to satisfy the needs of the masses. If democracy cannot satisfy the need of the masses, I don't think it's not only for change of leaders, no. Even change of leaders.
That's another perspective.
That's another perspective. So, but we cannot relate democracy to this perspective.
Okay.
Because when we talk about, I mean, Dr. Sane has said it, Senegal's democracy is not perfect. It has to be improved. But it does not mean because we have countries that are surrounded. We have a country that is surrounded by military leaders that we have to look at them negative or something that is really abnormal. If we don't take into consideration the context in which all this happened, we won't really understand it. At a certain time, you can have they had a civilian government.
Yes.
But the civilian government could not really end the conflict. I'm not saying that the military government
is
are
better.
the one.
Is that what you're saying? I mean, are you saying that the military government is better?
No, that's not what I cannot say it, actually. That's not what I cannot say it. But I'm just trying to I just want us to really contextualize. Because it's not in terms of having a military leader or having a civilian leader. The final objective is to satisfy the needs of the population.
And if the people are not satisfied, then that is not democracy in your terms.
What's the use of having democracy? It's not changing leaders. Changing a leader, if the leader is not there to satisfy the needs of the masses, what is it for?
Okay, what do you think about this perspective of democracy?
I'm afraid I am those who think that any leader who is there should be selected through transparent methods and agreed rules, ways. Any other leader who comes from a different way should be for a limited period of time and not stay for long. That is a definite view. From
if you have 4 years, let your 4 years be 4 years.
I mean,
you have 5 years, let
I
be 5
think
years.
for a transitional leader, 4 years is far too long. Even that. I mean, I wouldn't.
How many years would you recommend?
This is my view. I think I can understand, and I do agree with Dr. John, that let's not have definite value judgments on those military leaders. But what I believe
you do have a support here with Prof.
Well,
no, actually, I was saying I want to continue I was just saying that you cannot.
Usman, just a moment, please.
You cannot understand the situation if you don't really contextualize. Maybe they need a little time to solve or to stabilize the country and then maybe go. I'm not quite sure. But as far as they have the support of their population, we can still give them time.
Do they have it? How do we judge it?
So I cannot just...
that's the problem.
Yeah, I cannot just say that they really have it. But what is more important for me is just we have to contextualize.
All right.
But not point at accusing...
Usman, maybe you could come in.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, doctors in the studio. Very interesting conversation. But of course, time, as always, when we have this type of conversation, is not always on our side. And so we just have to move on very quickly to more recent issues. Because as you would agree with me, there have been concerns about political tensions in Senegal very recently, particularly between the president and his prime minister. Now, the question I want to ask Dr. Sani, first of all, is, are these signs of democratic maturity, or democracy in Senegal is under strain?
This is an entirely new experience of democracy. And I think Senegal would be studied in history would be looked at from having maybe forged a new way of conducting government business. We have here a system whereby a president, and I will say it, owns his legitimacy, and I believe that, through the prime minister. I don't think anybody will deny that. And how does he behave and what does he do? But in general, the principle I will state is controversy and problems are part and parcel of democracy. That's how a democracy functions. Now, we have here a very specific problem, which we've never seen. Now, how do we get out of that? I don't know yet. I mean, I'm not the oracle. Maybe Dr. John will tell us.
So I think that Dr. Sani is quite right. But I think here what we have is just a clash between political party principle and state principle. Even though the president owes his legitimacy to
the prime
minister, but institutions are institutions. The constitution is the constitution. So I think that's why we have a clash between, that's why I talk about the clash between political party principle and state principle.
But do you see them coming out of this clash, this would-be crisis?
It depends on them. If they put forward the interests of the population, they can silence their clash. I mean, they can even have a clash and then solve it without anybody knowing. They should not really show it in public. But I will believe that there is a clash. I'm not saying that there is no clash, but the way I see it is I will believe that there is a clash the day when they decide to part. But for me, as long as they are together and they manage to silence their difference, for me that's fine. But they should put forward the interests of the population.
Well, but Dr. John, I don't trust politicians, maybe because I was one, so don't trust me. I don't trust.
This is some sort of class suicide. Let's listen and learn, please.
I don't trust politicians to have in mind, first and foremost, the paramount interest of the people. Dr. John seems to believe that they're capable of it. Maybe. I'm more doubtful than he is. And I think they're fending for their own political survival. This is what I believe. I think each of them is fighting for his political survival. I don't think it's I don't buy that ideological and whatever it is that the people are first, should come first and things. I mean, come on. We all know how politics work. And I think, but I think they have no solution but to come to some terms of, even if there is fire underneath, but still on the outside, they will come up with a solution. They don't have any other way to get out of it.
Well, as we round off this conversation, this first, unfortunately, time is not our friend. We do have our guest for the second section already connected to us. What is the way forward, Prof? Let's start with you. 66 years. What should we be expecting in the coming years? Especially now that a countdown to the next election has started. I mean, whether you like it or not, it has started. What should we be looking forward to?
So, I mean, this is the danger of maybe we celebrate independence, but we don't really evaluate independence. Okay, we know about the symbolism of celebrating independence, but sometimes we don't go back to that symbolism, or do people still have the symbolism? What were the expectations that we had to meet, what I call the post-colonial promises and the post-colonial futures? How do we apprehend the post-colonial future of Africa, of Senegal and Africa in particular? And those promises should not be just limited to election for me. I mean, they should be evaluation of what should be the political future of Senegal, what should be the economic future of Senegal, what should be the cultural future of Senegal, what type of Senegalese citizen do we want to have in the future, what type of education do you want to have for the Senegalese people? What type of knowledge production do you want to have for the Senegalese people? I think these were questions that we really need to put on the table. What have been done so far since independence? Is this independence complete? Sometimes we talk about the incomplete project of independence. The independence is not really complete because the colonial matrix of power are still there,
whether you like it or not.
and whether we like it or not. So the first thing that we should do is to dismantle this political structure dynamic. If you don't do it, then there is no way to move forward.
Well, Dr.
I think Dr. John should come back into politics, and maybe he should. It's very refreshing to hear what he's saying. I mean, definitely. I know he was in politics and did get out of it. It's a pity. Now, he said a number of things that are true. Unfortunately, the next election is the agenda in Senegal today. We're not, even if we don't openly talk about it, but the real agenda in this country today is the next election. I mean, the problems between the two leaders is about the next election. I mean, to tell you the truth. He talked about evaluation. How great would it be if it were possible? But we don't have time for evaluation, I'm afraid. When you elect a system, you elect a regime, they come in and you have no way of forcing them to respect their commitments. There's no mechanism to hold them accountable of their commitments and their promises. The only way is election. You don't have any other way. So what do? You just let them promise, make more promises. All regimes do that. And I don't see any way out of that's why I'm saying that maybe his laboratory would help in thinking on mechanisms. And I hope he's working on that to do those things. They are important, those things.
Usman.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, this has been a very, very engaging conversation. And we can't thank you enough, gentlemen, for your insight. But Imo, if I may, I just need 60 seconds.
I'm counting.
I will give 30 seconds each. This is very important. And I want to start with Dr. Sani. What is the biggest threat to Senegal's democracy today? In 30 seconds, sir.
Maybe the relationship between the two leaders, the top part of the country, if they can resolve quickly, the institutions should come back and work normally. The institutions are under pressure to judge those relations.
Yeah. Prof.
So I think the same. I see eye to eye with Dr. Sane. This is really this pressure that we need to resolve, to put an end to it, and then move forward.
Indeed. All right. Well, Usman.
Within the
yes,
timing,
thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We have been speaking with Dr. Ibrahim Asane. He's a former member of the Senegalese Parliament, and of course, a journalist. I don't know of any retired journalist. And of course,
once a journalist, always a journalist.
Always a journalist. I will also be speaking with Professor Saliu Dione. He's the director of the Post-Colonial Studies Laboratory at Cheikh Anta Diop University. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your insights. Imo.
All right, thank you, sirs, for your time. And I will be crossing over to join our guests that are already connected for our second discussion. Please stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Your current affairs program, Citizens Hour, is now more inclusive, more educative, and brings you a broader perspective on political and governance matters. This quarter on Citizens Hour, we spotlight issues on democracy, civic education, women and youth participation in governance, and other policy issues. Every Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. and a repeat broadcast at 6 p.m. on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar. Also, don't miss our special monthly debate, which comes up every last Saturday of the month on trending political and governance issues in the sub-region. Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.
All right, if you're just joining us on radio, this is Citizens Hour, and we are coming to you on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. And it's time to switch on to our second topic.
Yes, in the second half of this program, we shift focus to the digital battlefield. To help us dissect whether propaganda is fueling division in the region, we are joined by Dr. Garuba Dauda, who is the director of the CDD. And of course, we also have with us Emmanuel Koranteng Asomani. He is the programs manager at Pen Plus Byte. Welcome to the conversation, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure joining you.
All right, let's start with understanding the threat. How serious is this coordinated digital disinformation to democracy in West Africa today? Dr. Garba, this is for you.
Well, it's very serious. And as you may know, currently, the sub-region, West Africa, faces quite a lot of challenges with respect to democracy and development, and disinformation and misinformation play quite a huge role in getting this happen. As you may have been aware in recent time, you've seen people, on their own, calling out on the military to take over power. And that also has an antecedent based on what the very limited benefits of what democracy has offered citizens of the region in recent times. So misinformation and disinformation is something that the military now anchor and use as a tool for mobilizing for unconstitutional change in power.
Well, just before I allow Usman to come in, what makes these campaigns different from the normal political criticism or public dissatisfaction, Doctor?
Well, the fact remains that increasingly the global information channel has been widened. And before now, what we know about what is happening in respective countries and even region is what the traditional media will report. But we've gotten to that point in the history of global development where all you need is a smartphone and become even involved in what some people have also considered as citizens journalism. So with a smartphone in your hands, you are able to take pictures of things that are happening. You are able to access information quickly and quickly send it out to the public, so as to enable them broadcast what is happening. So that's, if you like, that revolution, as much as it's good for the continent, as much as it has not even, it has made it impossible for people to now censor news and information that is getting out. It has also has its own damage to what is happening across the world. So in that context, you then will understand why we are getting to that point. So it's both, it has become both a cutlass as well as a destroyer as well as a builder in that context.
All right. Mr. Emmanuel, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Mr. Emmanuel's audio is playing some tricks.
Your audio is still a bit problematic. But before you were able to sort out your audio, Let me ask Dr. Garba this very simple, but I want to believe very significant question. I know there is a process to propaganda. There is, first of all, the crafting of the message, then the choice of which platform to use, and then, very importantly, there is dissemination. Now, is it possible for citizens to be, innocently participating in the process of disseminating disinformation?
Of course, yes, it's possible.
Please, I want you to explain. Because, sorry, sir. I want you to explain in a very layman's language, because our audiences, they cut across urban centers and people who dwell in rural communities who have smartphones in their hands and sometimes unknowingly used in this process of dissemination. So I would want you as an expert to explain this in very simple and clear terms on how citizens can actually be involved in the process of disseminating disinformation and propaganda.
Yes, it's possible for citizens to be involved in dissemination of information and propaganda. For instance, if you live under a government or in a country where the political class, or if you like, those who occupy public offices, are not proactive in explaining to the citizens what is happening and giving them the right information or what they are doing within the corridors of power. They are not getting it. And you find a situation where smartphones are everywhere and there is now access to them. Whatever the people see that is put out there as public information becomes what they know, becomes what they eulogize, becomes what they repeat. And for me, it's simple if you were to understand how the First World War happened. There is a concept of the big lie that was actually used by the Hitler administration. And all you needed to do was to concoct a lie in such an unimaginable way and be re-emphasizing it repeatedly. And it gets to a point where people generally get sold or buy into it or get sold in it to the point that it now looks like that is the lie. So if you are not being proactive as a public office holder or whether as a president or governor or even you call any person occupying public office, in offering the people the real information about what is happening in the corridors of power, the tendency is that with smartphones everywhere, people will help you create it. And we are seeing how it is happening, especially in the case of in West Africa. So for me, this has become the biggest weapon that have been used to hoodwink and also tell the people lies and put certain propaganda in a manner that should ordinarily wouldn't have flown if it were under the era before the smartphone. So increasingly, if the citizens if the government is interested in engaging the citizens, the first thing is to be proactive in providing information on the governance space, so that the people will then, by the time it's coming as a disinformation, they already would have known that, oh, the leaders have already offered an explanation for this. So they no longer see it as something that is, from the point of view of fantasy, to now use it to destroy a government that exists. So for me, I think strongly the frontal government withhold information from the citizens, the better the opportunity for misinformation and disinformation to fly.
Well, let me cross over to Accra. I would like to ask, is this why we're seeing military governments in the sub-region gaining popularity as a result of this propaganda?
And let me say that, let me just briefly add on to what Doc has said and then add on from there.
Okay.
And so when it comes to the issue of disinformation, as you rightly said, it's a very serious and a growing concern within our region. And usually it's because now people are looking for alternatives, right? We are in an area where over 30 years now, we've subscribed to democracy, and people have been looking for answers to questions in relation to things like economic hardship, in relation to the tangibles. And so when I speak of the tangibles, I'm referring to something like they want to see to it that the road in front of their houses are constructed. They want to see hospitals. They want to experience quality health care. But then if they are not seeing all of these things and someone repackages something and brings it to their doorstep, I'm just guessing, you and I, what our option would be. And so when it comes to disinformation, this is where we are now. And now we are in a digital era where it is at scale. And because of the advent of artificial intelligence, now it's happening at an unprecedented scale, and it's influencing political attitudes and even affecting regional cooperation, as you rightly said. Now, back to your question. You were asking why military governments are gaining popularity online. Am I right?
Yes.
Right. So there are two main reasons I can give to this. First and foremost, I would say that it ties into my initial response, where there are real frustrations. Citizens are frustrated. I mean, we've given democracy a chance for too long, and day in, day out, we see how politicians are embezzling funds. Funds meant to bring about development in our various communities. We realize that day in, day out, politicians are misappropriating funds and they go unpunished. And so if you are a citizen and you sit behind and you are able to even afford 3 square meal a day, then you become worried, right? And so sometimes these frustrations sort of solidifies or quote and unquote give some people room to say that there is an alternative. So let's go in for that. Also, and it also ties into our poor governance structure where we don't account to the people. There is poor accountability on the part of government to the people. And so it becomes very worrying, very, very worrying, where individuals we've voted for are supposed to get back to us, tell us what they are doing, how far they've gone with implementation. You came to our doorsteps, you told us these are the things you mapped out you want to do, but quote and unquote, it becomes no show in the very end. And lastly, let me also touch on one reason why it's gaining, military governments are gaining popularity online. We can't ignore the fact that we are in a digital era. And so digital amplification, now we have, when it comes to digital propaganda and disinformation, it is no more just sharing of information. It is planned. It is a market space now. It has become more of a coordinated, a deliberate, intentional scheme where people take time, cook stories, amplify it using bots and troll farms, and to sort of, because they know what people want to hear, they know what citizens want to hear, and so these digital platforms easily make it easy for these military governments to have their way with such messages.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garba. And I can actually cut and paste what you have just said now to virtually every other government within the sub-region. They need to take advantage of these platforms. Thank you very much, Dr. Garba, Director of CGD. And of course, immense thank you to Mr. Emmanuel Koranteng Asomani, Programs Manager at Pen Plus Byte. We do sincerely thank you very much for your time on this very segment. Thank you very much for investing your time with us this weekend. See you next week. I am Usman Umar.
And I am Imo Edet. Don't forget, we also have these on SoundCloud and AudioMac. You can also go back to our YouTube and Facebook pages to get this edition of the program. Many thanks to Ismaila Kamara at the end of the glass, and Maudo Juf. It's Independence Day here, and we are about to start the celebration. I am Imo Edit.
Citizens Hour on West Africa